The one hope is the ice, which is why they're going to be going out eventually to the poles. Ice, obviously, is water. Water means that you can start making fuel on the moon. Maybe you can start, because you can split into hydrogen and oxygen, maybe you can start using the moon, for instance, to refuel satellites, because it's a sixth of gravity. You can get stuff off a lot faster. And then you can start thinking, can we do more in space? Can we manufacture things in space? Can we use massive arrays of solar panels that can be replenished from the moon and even maybe made on the moon to start generating energy?
Now gives us a bit more time with Tom Whipple. Hello, Tom.
Hello, hello.
So what have you got for us this week, Tom? What's happening in the world of science? It's quite good to have a sort of safe space away from Robert Jenrick right now.
We are definitely a safe space away from Robert Jenrick. Let's talk about something not even on this planet. It is currently on this planet. There's a really big rocket that's going to roll out in Florida probably over the weekend. It's the Artemis 2 rocket, and it is a sign that humans, Americans, are returning to the moon, and in fact, one Canadian. This is, if you think back to your Apollo days, I'm sure you remember them well, Aisha. This is the equivalent of Apollo 8. This is the one that's going to go around the moon, but with people on. So people are going to see bits of the moon that have never been seen before. And that is, it'll be astonishing, and I'm sure the world will watch. And it is a prelude to, as with the Apollo program, putting humans on the moon. Now, the question is, though, why? Humans did this very successfully, quite famously, in 1969. It's taken us a long time to go back there, I think, primarily because there's not that much point in going back there. So the question is, what is this program about? And elements of it are exactly the same as the last program. It is about geopolitics, it's about prestige, it's about maybe even about inspiring people. There is talk, though, of a lunar economy. There is talk of finding a way to make the moon pay, because one of the interesting things is it can feel like this has been a huge hiatus. The last humans to leave the moon did so in 1972. They were appalled when there was a message on the way home, a message beamed by Nixon, I think it was at the time, saying that we were leaving the moon, but we will return, but it may not happen this century. And they were like that, they thought that preposterous, the idea that they would be the last that century. And of course, it's taken 25 years plus beyond that. And
I just remind, I've just came back from Boston. In fact, I'm wearing my JFK T-shirt today. That was such a proud part of JFK, that space race, getting to the moon, making the big arguments about why that was so important.
Yeah, we do it because it was hard.
Yes,
is what he said.
Yes, I love that quote.
Yeah, and he's absolutely right. No, but the interesting thing is, when those Apollo 17 astronauts went back through the atmosphere into Earth, they passed by a couple of dozen satellites, maybe even fewer. The ones that take off today will pass by tens of thousands. And the reason for that is simple. There is money in putting satellites up in space. Now, can there be money in the moon? The one hope is the ice, which is why they're going to be going out eventually to the poles. Ice, obviously, is water. Water means that you can start making fuel on the moon. Maybe you can start, because you can split into hydrogen and oxygen, maybe you can start using the moon, for instance, to refuel satellites, because it's a sixth of gravity. You can get stuff off a lot faster. And then you can start thinking, can we do more in space? Can we manufacture things in space? Can we use massive arrays of solar panels that can be replenished from the moon and even maybe made on the moon to start generating energy? So maybe, and the truth is people don't know, but at the moment the best justification for going to the moon is its practice for going to Mars, and we can use it to refuel rockets to go to Mars, which is kind of just sort of kicks the question further down the line about why we're going to Mars.
And do you think we will enter an era, as you say, look, there's such a race for rare minerals and things that are of value. There's a lot of deep sea exploration being done at the moment. There's a lot of, space exploration being done. Do you think we'll enter a new era of the sort of space race?
I think we're in one. The Chinese, the Indians are looking to go to the moon as well. There's an issue of ownership of the moon. Under the terms of the Outer Space Treaty, you're
I
not
think
allowed
Donald
to
Trump
own.
owns it. I think we know the answer to
Yeah,
that.
I think it might be difficult to persuade him otherwise. There's this sort of fudge where we've created this thing called the Artemis Accords, where you don't get property rights, but you do get some sort of territorial safety. I think it's called a safety zone or something. So there's all this law about this, and as you say, yeah, there is a space race, and there is the weaponization of space is probably happening in ways that we don't really understand. But space is becoming big business. It's becoming real estate. And you have to have a space industry to control your Earth industries. And so ultimately, yeah, look, China and the US will be doing things there that we definitely don't hear about.
Gosh. And are they the front runners? Are they the two big? Are they the front running countries in terms of this race?
Well, I think you'd have to say Russia is still, because of its legacy, it's still one of the very few countries that can operate in space and bring stuff up and down. But looking to the future, it's going to be China.
Gosh, very interesting. The sort of new. Gosh, everything is real estate, isn't it? It's just like that. Everything is real estate now. Now let's move from real estate to a subject close to all of our hearts: gay monkeys.
Gay monkeys. I love gay monkeys. There is a.
Well, tell us about gay monkeys, Tom.
Well, look, for a long time, people sort of ignored the gayness of monkeys, and they considered it this sort of random quirk. If you saw a couple of macaques doing something that really didn't fit with the family values of what you might have felt in the 1950s macaques should be up to, you ignored it. You said, oh, that's just, some sort of random quirk. We don't need to think too much about it. It has become increasingly apparent across the animal kingdom that animals do all sorts. We have spoken about this in the past, Aisha. But there is a systematic study in the journal Nature and Ecology and Evolution looking just at non-human primates. They looked at about 500 species, and then they looked at the prevalence, the reported prevalence, which will certainly be an underreport, of same-sex behaviour. And there are things in this paper that I think cannot be properly mentioned on a family radio show. But they're all at it, basically. But they're doing it.
I'm glad someone is.
What it's looking at is trying to get at the why and the how it appears, because it is a Darwinian paradox, as it used to be known. If someone explained to you how evolution worked and how it's about which species can reproduce the most, and which individuals within the species have the selective advantage.
Boris Johnson.
Then you say, yeah, look, Boris Johnson is winning the evolutionary race, and traditionally you'd have thought that is because of his relentless heterosexuality, but there may be other things going on there, because it turns out that the more homosexual chimps actually end up being the more heterosexual as well. They got more action sometimes. Oh. But why is this thing happening that appears to be pointless? And what they found is that the species that were in drier, harsher environments, that had more food scarcity, more predation pressure, more complex social structures and hierarchies, a lot like boarding school, were more likely to exhibit same-sex behaviour. Oh. And some of it seems to be about building friendships, very good friendships, I have to say, but really building those friendships and building those bonds within the community so that you can go out and fight other monkeys or indeed win the hands of fair females impressed with your massive gayness. So
I love it. This is just, I think the big takeaway from this, we've had loads of messages just going, be more gay monkey. They've had that one through. We need more gay monkey in our life. And I've had this one through from friends saying, this is like an episode of Carry On Up the Jungle now.
But the question is, what does this mean for humans? Does this explain homosexuality in humans? And it sort of does, in that we see that our closest relatives are all up to it. But it sort of doesn't, because one of the really interesting things in humans is we have exclusive homosexuality. You have men in particular who are just gay, and you don't see that in the animal kingdom to the same extent. And so that
King
is
of the
something
swingers. King of the swingers.
Yeah, well, exactly. They are swinging all sorts of ways, but we do something quite strange. So it hasn't quite. There's lots of theories about human homosexuality that goes into different things, but it shows there's an extra complexity going on in humans.
I've just had my producer go, I think we'll leave it there now, Aisha. Tom, an absolute pleasure. You have lifted the mood and given us lots of brain food with the space race, and it's always nice to end the chat on gay monkeys. I will speak to you next week. That's the wonderful Tom Whipple. He writes for Science on the Times, and he presents a brilliant podcast called Making Science with Tom Whipple.